Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal, for a limited time, only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up.
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark joining me, as always, since it is football season. Wake Up War Chant, part of the WarChant.com family. Use that promo code WarChant30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Man, it's not going to be a sleepy hump day for us here, Corey. Lots going on, it feels like. Lots to talk about on this midweek show. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. It's been an interesting and unique and a little bit bizarre, mostly surreal 72 hours of the 2019 football season. It just never stops.
It doesn't. A couple things you need to touch on real quick before we dive into the show involves things that you just mentioned. But how about this? Backwoods Hicknoll. That's actually his name. That's like his username on WarChant. Backwoods Hicknoll joined the other day. He just joined on Tuesday. So welcome to the family. He told us, he responded to the podcast that we dropped on Tuesday, telling us, first and foremost, try the onion rings at Zaxby's and dip them in their horseradish sauce that I believe comes with the meal. So there we go.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. He also wanted to let you know, Corey, that your statement after ACC Media Days about, quote, what is a hot seat reminded him of Bill Clinton. Depends what your definition of is statement. So,
sure, okay, fair enough.
But a couple of the crazy things that have happened here. Obviously, this thing that came out of Willie's Monday talk show that he does every week about the Boise game, whether or not the team might have been properly conditioned, properly hydrated, has become a bit of a national story. So there's bad news and then there's not bad news. So that's the bad news. As we talk about this, one of the replays of the day from Around the Horn is coming up. They asked the panel, what was the worst loss of the weekend? The options were Tennessee, Hugh Freeze in his hospital bed, going all, Brady Clark, sick day, playing video games in his race car bed, but, coaching in a hospital bed in the press box, my guy Hugh Freeze, or Florida State losing to Boise State. The good news is nobody on the panel of the four people, nobody said Florida State. So we got that going for us.
That would be asinine. How could you pick Florida State over Tennessee?
Right.
Tennessee lost to Georgia State. Georgia State didn't have a program like 4 years ago. Boise State has been good for most of our lifetimes, apparently.
Right. So that's the good news, or the goodish news. Otherwise, my brother even texted me in our little group text. Apparently at some point this afternoon on Tuesday, as you're listening to this on a Wednesday, on Tuesday afternoon, ESPN.com ran, I still haven't read it. I probably should read it since we're going to be talking about it, but apparently the comments that Willie made at his call-in show or his talk show on Monday about conditioning, hydration, Ira posted it. He does it every single week. He sits in front of the television and watches Willie's call-in show, talk show, and posts all the sort of blurbs. He posted that, but really wasn't a big deal. But the Democrat posted it. They posted a whole story regarding it, and then Bavion Johnson was asked about it, and one thing became into another. And now it's kind of a quasi-national story, it seems like, Corey.
Well, but you're also conflating them. Hydration and conditioning are two separate things. The head coach on Monday, and I don't think he meant it. I mean, I don't know what he meant, but he was asked essentially, were they hydrated well enough? And he said, we got to go back and take a look to see if we're hydrating these players enough during the week, which is in a way, not in a way, it is an indictment of the training staff, because it makes people think, okay, that's a possibility. They weren't hydrated enough. And so then the headline becomes, Taggart doesn't know if players were hydrated enough for Boise State game. And I saw that all over Facebook. People like Peter Bolware were retweeting it, saying it's enough with the excuses. I got texts from my friends in Georgia about, are you kidding me with this? Like, it just became a national story, mainly because of the headline of Taggart doesn't know if hydration was an issue against Boise State, because it makes it look like and I don't think he meant to do this at all. I think it was more or less a throwaway answer to a kind of bizarre question. Of course, they were hydrated well enough. I mean, the guy that's been training them has been doing it forever. I mean, it's preposterous. It was really, really hot. It was really hot. Half the people that are listening to this show that were at the stadium left at halftime. It was so hot. So of course those kids were thirsty and tired and sweaty. But it becomes a national story because it makes it look like the coach is making excuses, right? Like, well, it wasn't necessarily that we scored 0 points and had 68 yards in the second half and our defense couldn't stop anyone. It's because we weren't drinking enough Powerade. That's what it looks like. It looks like another excuse for a floundering program.
And you say another excuse, and it's part of the whole mantra: do something, blame no one, make no excuses. He hasn't really made excuses. I don't feel like Willie.
And I don't think that was an excuse. It's just it's the perception of it. It looks like an excuse to people that are, this country, this society. We read headlines. We don't click on stories anymore, really. So it's a tweet. It's a funny tweet that you screen grab and you send to your friends. Look at this. They're saying that they don't read the story. They don't read the context of the quote. And I certainly don't think Taggart thinks that they were not hydrated correctly. But that's the quote. That's the story. That's the headline. And so that becomes the narrative that Willie Taggart is making excuses that the training staff didn't hydrate his players well enough. That's not the truth. But it's perception versus reality, man. If it's perceived that way by most people, then it becomes the reality. And it looks like he made an excuse. He doesn't. He really doesn't make excuses. He never really even blamed Jimbo much last year at all.
No.
He's not a guy that makes excuses, but people around the country view that as an excuse, I think, which is why it was just so laughable. It was a crazy, but maybe that's where you learn maybe a little more about PR. And he's really good with the media, but know how it comes across when you say something like that, because it looks like you're questioning your training staff, and it also looks like you have genuine concerns about how your kids were hydrated. Which, if you did, you certainly would never publicize that, right?
Oh, I would hope not. And you talk about conflating conditioning with hydration. I think maybe some folks might also conflate training staff with nutritionists. I would think hydration doesn't – when I think of Jake File and the training staff, I think of dealing with concussion protocol, talking to the orthopedic surgeons, determining whether or not they want to go with plan A or plan B in terms of operating on a kid. When I think of hydration, that's the nutrition staff, which is a separate entity from your trainers, quote unquote. But bizarre thing, and I don't. Is it a slow news day kind of thing, or to your point, is it just a once proud program kind of floundering, and this is a funny explanation that might have been given for their latest woe as for why it's picking up traction? Crazy to me. I mean, the schedule's amazing. You got A&M playing Clemson, A&M's offensive lineman talking smack. You got Texas playing LSU. That's a huge game. And we're sitting here talking about Florida State, the week they're playing Louisiana Monroe. It's bizarre.
We're talking about hydration.
Yeah.
That could be the next shirt, the next meme. We're not talking about practice. We're talking about hydration. So, that's exactly what it becomes. And then Big Baby didn't help matters at all on Tuesday.
Conditioning went our strong suit, and that's what we plan to get work on, and we plan to improve this week. The goal is to perform all our reps at practice the way they need to be performed in the game, because in actuality, the way you practice is how you perform.
So do you think you guys weren't prepared for that game?
No, we weren't prepared. I wasn't prepared. We all weren't prepared. We need to get better. I feel like it was just conditioning overall, and that's what we need to get better at.
I don't know what I don't know why he would say that. Him saying that we weren't prepared, we were unprepared, I felt unprepared. I just don't know that he understands how that looks in print or how that looks on video. And I also don't quite understand how you can say that when you scored 31 points on your first 5 possessions. You looked plenty prepared. You didn't handle adversity well, because why would you? You're a Florida State football team, and that doesn't happen these days. But I certainly didn't look at that team in the first half of that game and went like, man, they are not prepared for this Boise State defense at all. Right?
I think this is the problem again. We hate when players are programmed to be robots and say talking points. And then I think he tried to be a pro, kind of. I think he got lost in the moment, kind of a thing. Like he didn't want to be a phony. He realized, I think even James to a certain extent, James Blackman didn't try to pull any punches about whether or not they did a good job for 60 minutes. I think he was pretty kind of candid and honest about, we didn't do a good job. I think Bavion just kind of got lost in, I don't want to sit in front of all you and say that, yeah, we did a good job, because we obviously didn't. We didn't do anything for, 30 minutes of the game. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that, hey, we're totally cool with what everything happened. And I think he just kind of went on a weird bit of a tangent, and he was kind of asked about that, though. He was asked about the hydration conditioning thing. A reporter was asking everybody about that. So and I don't think it was a trap. I just think that it's 8 in. He's probably tired as much as I was, and just felt like, we weren't prepared for it, but we'll get better, kind of a thing. And to your point, didn't realize how bad that looks on print and how bad it sounds in audio, which and just
also played. So many times players, and it's human nature, but you're not going to just admit, yeah, we got whipped in the second half. They were stronger. They were better than us. So you have to have a reason for the loss. Like when they lose to Clemson later this year, and we talk to the players about what went wrong, it'll be about, well, we just didn't execute. We didn't follow the game plan. Well, no, man, you just got your butts kicked by a much better team. That's what will happen, but they are never going to say that. So players are always looking for reasons and excuses other than themselves, which, again, it's human nature. And I'm not saying Bavion had a bad game. I'm just saying you would never admit, well, their defense just was suffocated us in the second half. We couldn't do anything right. Or James wasn't making the right reads. You're never going to say that, so you're going to use sometimes nebulous thoughts like, we didn't prepare well, or we weren't conditioned well enough. Man, you were only on the field for like 19 snaps in the second half. Conditioning had nothing to do with it. And my man, Big Baby, is sprinting out to the ball to start every drive. I love that kid. His conditioning was fine. So I just think it was, it was not really a thoughtful answer. It was just him, maybe parroting a question that was asked, using the word that was in the question, and saying, oh, no, we definitely weren't conditioned or we weren't prepared. Like, okay, man, well then, how do you explain the 31 points in 5 drives? Like, what was that? Just blind luck? It looked like you were pretty prepared. So, anyway, but that became a story too, and that became something I saw on Facebook and other tweets about it. It's been, like I said, a bizarre, surreal 48 hours, 72 hours here for the Florida State football team. But yes, I do think it's also the part of the big bad bully that's been kicked and knocked on the ground and is holding his stomach, and you can make fun of him a little bit and say, look at this once proud program. They've hit the dump so much that now they're blaming hydration on their loss. They're blaming hydration for their losses. I just think there's a comical element to it that people latch onto when it's a program like Florida State. Obviously, if the Toledo coach had said, yeah, we didn't hydrate well against Michigan State, nobody would care. That wouldn't be a headline. But this isn't Toledo, it's Florida State. And when your head coach says something like that, of course it's going to, and it's directly quoted and there's headlines, it's going to be tweeted about and it's become viral and it's become, just a chance for people to make fun of the program.
And I want to ask you this because somebody posted a link to a podcast on the Tribal Council. Chris Landry, Landry Football, talked about just kind of these things aren't surprising that are happening across the nation right now. Tennessee struggling, Florida State struggling. And he went on this, 5-6 minute kind of soapbox thing about why he doesn't think that Willie Taggart will ultimately be successful at Florida State. Kind of compared Willie to Dabo in some aspects in terms of them. He doesn't think neither of them are really great football minds, X and O's guys, but he just thinks that Dabo has a better feel for the administrative aspect of being a head football coach, managerial responsibilities, organization. So I don't know. Is this something? Is this even a realistic thing to put at Willie's feet that you don't have your staff coaching your guys up to properly take care of themselves before a game? Or is this maybe part of the whole thing that they think that Willie's deflecting and not taking? I don't know who this would ever even fall on. I mean, I definitely don't think it was ever Jimbo's responsibility to make sure Jameis got 2,000 calories a day and drank a gallon of water. That's the crazy thing.
Right. No, I think it really is just it's a throwaway question. It was a silly question to be asked on a coach's talk show anyway about were the players hydrated well enough, because that's a weird thing to ask. If they ran the defensive players were out there for 108 plays in 40 minutes, 23 minutes in the second half in 1,000-degree heat. Like, of course, they were tired and sweaty and really tired and exhausted. And when there were, number one, there weren't a ton of cramps anyway. It's not like guys were falling down every other play. They played a lot of guys. I know Nasruddin went down early, but I think that's because he busted his shoe.
Yeah,
and then he made it look like an injury, so they would stop the game. So he busted his shoe.
Yeah, smart kid.
Exactly, and then he went back and led the team in tackles. So if that's the guy you're pointing to is falling out with cramps, well, that guy led the team in tackles and was probably your second-best defensive player. So he didn't really suffer from dehydration. The problem is that Jimbo, number one, Jimbo's never asked, I can't imagine in his 8, 9, 10 years here about hydrating. But if he had been, he wouldn't have said, yeah, we've got to go and make sure. And I'm not getting the exact quote right. I'm paraphrasing. But we got to make sure that we're hydrating these guys well enough. He wouldn't have said something like that. That was just a misstep and a misspeak by Willie Taggart. But I don't think he has real questions about how they're getting hydrated. I think he has real questions about what they're doing on defense.
No, indeed. Hey, let's take a water break. We'll be right back.
Ooh, nice.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Knolls since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey's here with me as well. Check out warchant.com for the very latest on the Florida State Seminole football program. We'll be out at practice on Wednesday. We'll talk to the defense. I know there's a lot of questions about the defense, but we didn't speak to them on Tuesday. We did speak to the offense. I don't really know what we could have asked. I appreciate being able to talk to the coordinators. I really wish we could speak to them after the game, but that's not very commonplace. I think the only program I ever covered was Ole Miss, where they let you talk to the coordinators after the game. So when we did speak to Kendal on Tuesday, it was kind of a post-game press conference. There was a lot of what happened against this, why did you do that kind of thing, and not so much a look forward. What do you think was the general consensus from Kendal in terms of why things went wrong? And before I guess I'll let you answer that, he's different than Walt Bell. I kind of pointed out that Walt Bell always tried to be like the happy soldier, try to spin things forward and positive. Kendal doesn't seem very keen on hollow words and lip service.
I think two things there. Number one, Walt Bell was kind of a foot soldier in the sense that it wasn't his offense necessarily. He was OC in name only. Kendal Browse, this is his thing. Like, he has to answer for it because we all know he's been given the keys, and he gets to drive it as fast where he wants. He gets to go down the highway. It's all him. So he would answer things a little differently, and I think he really was obviously disappointed. Like you pointed out, fourth time ever he's had a scoreless half. So, he was disappointed. I think the one thing that caught my ear, though, was the one that caught my ear the most was when he was talking about their third down struggle. And he said that, on first and second down, if they're not successful, that makes them predictable in third down. And that's when they can get exposed. And that was the word that caught my eye, was exposed. Did you hear that too? And what did you think of that?
Well, I mean, they didn't even encounter. I feel like the only third down they encountered in the first half was the first drive before Cam ended up busting it for the fourth down for a touchdown. So it wasn't like they encountered third down a lot. And then I don't know. Is his offense geared to face third and short? I feel like his offense is geared to almost never face third down.
Well, that in the first half it didn't. It had 4 third down conversions, I think, and they were 0 for 4. But one was One, they got the fourth down afterwards. One was the Blackman fumble. And then, the other one was the snap. Oh, maybe they were even 0 for 3. Yeah, they were 0 for 4. But one was the Blackman fumble, and one was the snap way past his head that went 20 yards back. So all their third downs in the first half were kind of short, but they obviously didn't do well. I don't know if they're not supposed to face third downs, but when that thing's humming along, you're scoring on first and second down. You don't get the third down a ton, but in the second half they did. And in that the sack that Blackman that fumbled on, that's a 3rd and 8. And again, that's what he's talking about. They were predictable. And then he ends up getting sacked and losing a fumble that kind of turned the game a little bit. So he knows what their limitations are up front, is what I took from that. He didn't say that. I think he said he thought the offensive line did a good job. But that offensive line is always going to be much better when it's going tempo and the other team doesn't know for sure that they're going to pass on like 3rd and 8 because they just aren't going to be good enough up front to pass block, in my opinion.
Well, I think they're going to be better pass blockers than they are run blockers, despite the fact that even when they weren't running the ball well, I don't know, even the 3-yard runs that Cam would have felt much better than the 3-yard runs they had last season. As crazy as that sounds.
I agree with that. And I think, don't you think part of that though is the tempo? And they don't have to be great run blockers. Like none of those guys, maybe Lucas by the end of the year, but none of those guys are going to be pushing people out of the way like bulldozers.
Right.
But if they got them, if you're going quick and you got a 2nd and 3 and you run the ball while the other team is lining up, you're going to have success. They didn't really get a chance to do that much in the second half.
Yeah.
They didn't get a chance to go.
First possession of the second half, Blackman runs left for 5 yards, but there was a holding penalty on Cam, so that puts him at 1st and 20. Second drive, LeBourne runs on first down. Third drive, they got first down on the first play of that possession. He hit DJ for 14 yards, then he went incomplete to Gavin, incomplete to DJ, shovel pass, end around to Terry, loss of 1. So, yeah, and after that, they ran it again. So, I take that back. I was wrong. They did try to run the ball.
But first down, they didn't do a lot of running on second down. I think what happened there was, 2nd and 8. In 2nd and 8, to me, is a good time to run the ball because the defense doesn't think you're going to run the ball. They think you're going to run it on 1st and 10, and they know you're going to pass it on 3rd and 8. But 2nd and 8 is one of those where you can catch them off guard a little bit. And maybe that's the biggest gripe that Willie had when talking to Bryles after the game, or even hopefully during the game, was, hey, man, just because it's 2nd and 8 doesn't mean we can't give it to our really good running back. Like, he can bust a 31-yarder on 2nd and 8.
I don't know how impressed he is with Cam Akers. I think
you don't
Willie
think
likes,
so? You got a vibe that he wasn't?
Yeah, I think Willie likes Cam a lot. I don't think Kendal nearly shares the same opinion. Just the way he said that, Cam didn't have his greatest game on Saturday, which is true. I mean, this is a kid who broke the freshman rushing record at Florida State University that was owned by Dalvin Cook, maybe the best running back ever at this university. I did find that a little bit interesting. I don't think it was over the line or anything like that, but I think that was a bit of a revealing thing that he said. And then, he was asked about the fact that, would you slow things down to maybe get a better feel for things? Because, they were, even when they would go incomplete, they still kind of went at a pretty decent clip. It wasn't incomplete and then, all right, everybody jog back. Let's go down to about 5 seconds left on the play clock and then run something. And, he unsurprisingly so was just, he said his quote was, we're going to do what we do, which is,
right.
Go fast. And I don't have a problem with that. Jeff, not to be a spoiler, but Jeff Cameron was saying it on the War Chant report with him, Gene, and Ira that, it's just they're going to go for broke. I just really think this is the way their path to victories is scoring 40 points, and it's going to be to go fast. So I wouldn't want them to slow things down. It's a fair question, but I wouldn't expect them to slow things down, nor should they, I don't think.
Well, no, in reality, while it would help the defense, it's not what Bryles was brought here to do. And we don't know how much it would help the defense. Like, is the defense going to be that much better if they're on the field 6 minutes less? I don't know. It's not like they were stopping Boise to start the game, and they had 9 months of rest. So who knows how much difference it would make if they had an extra 2.5 minutes of rest in a quarter. I don't think it would matter all that much. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the path. Is you're gonna have to score 35, 38, 40 some points to win some of these games, and the best way to do that with that offensive line and this coaching staff, because it's what they know, is to go really fast and just when it's going to look really bad when it looks like this, when it looks like it did on Saturday in the second half. But sweet Moses, it looks pretty good in the first half when it's working right.
Yeah, sweet Moses with his sandals, indeed. This was something that you wrote about last week and was talked about a little bit. Obviously, was the bravado coming from the team, the confidence, chicken versus egg? Do you need to be confident before you can win, or should you win and then show who you are and show your confidence? Willie said it's a product of being prepared. If you're prepared well, you'll be confident. At practice on Tuesday, there was there's a lot of hoot and hollering. There was guys. I think it was Marvin, as we were interviewing Cam and Kendal, was hey, let's get after it. KB, let's put in that work. Cam, let's put in that work. 3, let's get it. There was a lot of talking going on during the not the knoll drill, but the 4-on-4 sort of thing they run. Willie was out there literally in the middle of the drill, pretty much behind the linebacker. So again, this 4-on-4 drill, there's 3 linemen versus 3 defenders. Running back gets the ball, tries to get through that first level, and then he meets a linebacker head on. Well, Willie pretty much had his hand on the shoulder of the linebacker all the way up until impact. And to me, and Iro's I kind of agree, that was the most sort of violent drill or period, opening period of practice that I can remember. They've been doing this forever now. They either do the knoll drill, they'll do one-on-one Oklahomas, or they've been doing this 4-on-4 thing. But there was a lot of contact, a lot of loud, fast, physical contact, and guys were chirping and talking it up, and I don't know how much of that is. Maybe is there a pressure that was on them in Boise that's now off their shoulders, so now they can kind of play relaxed and loose? Or did you have any feel for things? Is this just maybe another kind of, we're trying to talk ourselves up? Let's speak positive thoughts so that we practice well and hopefully it'll show out on Saturday. Or is it much ado about nothing?
I don't know. I would hope that they were challenged, that whole defense was challenged. The offense too, because of how soft they played and how soft they looked. I would hope, if I was the defensive coordinator and I was a part of that defensive staff, and after watching that film and going over that film, I would say, look at this, man. I thought you want to be a football player. Like, look at this. Do you not want to go make plays? Do you not want to go make tackles? You're wearing pads. Like, you're a football player. Go be tough. Go be tougher than a Boise State tight end. And I think maybe that's the message they were trying to send. Whether it's for our benefit or whether it's the real deal, whether it's even anything to look at all, I would think it was more like that. Like, yeah, there seemed to be a real motive behind it. Like, you're right, because it was noticeably more physical. And I was off to the side. I wasn't down where you were by the goalpost to see it. I could just hear it, because obviously the players on each side, so you can't really see what's going on necessarily, but you can hear it. And, it just sounded different.
I do hope, and this is where I hope I don't sound hypocritical. I try not to be, obviously. I try to be consistent. But I do have concerns, not to go on too far of a tangent, but just the overall health and safety of football players these days with all the science that's coming out. And, that was something that Willie kind of, we're not going to put the caps on the offensive lineman anymore. I'm not really worried about that kind of stuff. But they thud. They thud all the time. I know Jimbo did that a lot, but Willie talks about, we're going to practice like pros. We're going to thud. We're not going to wrap up and tackle to the ground. But by week 6 last season, I think, maybe week 7, they weren't even wearing full pads. And I get it, like, whatever, you can thud up, but like, you should be in full pads at least one practice in a week. And I think that's like a reward for teams that are doing well. All right, we'll take it easy on you today. Just wear your shells. And it's like, oh, all right, cool, helmets and shoulder pads, that's all. I do wonder if, maybe this is the beginning of trying to perhaps practice less like a pro and more like an Alabama that just seems to go crazy and are physical at any opportunity they can get. But that remains to be seen. Corey, as we wind the show down today, we will be able to talk to Harlan Barnett and defenders on Wednesday morning at practice. I bet Harlan, I don't know. I hope he sleeps well, but I wouldn't sleep all that well knowing that I'm going to get a whole bunch of questions about what happened on Saturday, and I don't really know what I'm going to say. What could he say? What would you want to ask him? Because you will be able to ask him. And is it fair to ask him that Willie said that things are fixed, and if he agrees with that?
I mean, the first question I'm going to ask him, obviously, is are they going to be better hydrated this week?
Right.
That's number one. And does he think they're in better condition and better prepared? I mean, those are the three things that are really hindering the Florida State program right now. I would ask him what he saw in film and what changes can be made immediately to make this a competent defense. Like, is this just it? How much improvement can be made between game 1 and game 2, or, game 1, game 3, game 1, game 11? Was this the floor, kind of? And I don't know if I'd ask it like that. But basically, I just want to get a gauge of, like, how surprised he was and how much confidence, if any, he has that they can turn that around. Because I don't know that anybody listening to us right now, I don't know that anybody in that locker room, I hope they do, but I don't know that anybody in that locker room is confident that they're going to turn it around. Because it was such a debacle. So that's kind of what I would try. I don't know how I'd ask that, but that's what I'd want to know, is how confident he is that this thing can be turned around. Because I don't think Harlan's going to be nervous about meeting with this man. That guy's, he played in the NFL for 10 years. I don't think he's going to be worried about us goofballs asking him questions. But he better be worried like the other 23 hours and 50 minutes each day trying to get that defense right.
Your whole life has been doing kind of one, not principle, but just one. You did the 4-3, you did it really well, and then you do this grand experiment, and it works out so bad that it will be interesting to see just how confident he is about whether or not they can get it fixed. To your point. I can't expect he's going to say anything besides, we know what we need to do, and we're going to drill it, and we're going to figure it out, and we feel good about it. I guess Monroe Louisiana Monroe will maybe be the proof in the pudding on that. Before we go, we got a whole bunch of questions that we got to do tomorrow on the Renegade Express, brought to you by First Commerce Financial. There was one question that I'm like, we might as well pull at least maybe one or two of these out so that we don't spend 2 hours on the show. Speaking of which, we probably won't take all the questions because we don't want to do a 2-hour show because, folks, you don't want to sit and listen to me for, 2 hours. So with that said, just one thing I wanted to run by you, Corey, I thought was a good question. It comes from F. Steve U. Steve starts with an S. It's supposed to be like FSU, Steve. So it's not like a it's not a root thing. Hey, guys, love the show. What do you think the narrative would be if the two halves were reversed with the outcome being the same? And I think that maybe speaks to the defensive struggles, perhaps. I think. Well, here you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it would be a different. If you were down by whatever that would be, if you were down 17-0 at half, and then ended up losing 36-31, people would be pretty excited. Excited is way too strong a word. They would be much more okay and content with what they saw in the second half. Number one, you wouldn't have all these questions about how you melted in the second half because of hydration and conditioning, because you outscored them by, you put 31 points up in the second half. But I think it would give you hope, like, that's the last thing you saw was the offense finally coming together and looking like it's supposed. Imagine if they had 358 yards in the second half. Yeah, man, I think that's, in reality, though, it shouldn't matter. The score is the score. The game was the game. But I do think perception-wise, you would feel a lot better about what you saw. Oh, they made all the adjustments they were supposed to make. They figured it out. Now it's nothing but clear sailing because they figured it out, as opposed to, man, was the first half just lucky? I think that's the difference in the two perceptions of if the halves were reversed.
I think your sentiment overall is correct and probably the accurate one, but I feel like Steve was laying a trap almost, like, hey, guys, chill out with all this criticism. Had this happened, you want to be speaking in this sort of tone or this kind of despair. I think on the flip side of it, though, you talk about the fact that you had all this time to prepare. It's a new day. We're going to forget about the season. We're going to come out, shock the world, show everybody what we're all about, and then you come out that flat in the first half. And then maybe we're actually talking about the fact, the only reason they scored points in the second half was because Boise got tired. maybe at that point that's
well, that's true too. The narrative of what in the world? The first half, you had all that time and you didn't score a single point. You didn't score a touchdown again in the first half. After all, yeah, you're right. But I do think that would have been the talking point for a half. But I think when you see the 31 in the second half, you might have been more like, okay, well, at least they figured it out, and now they got it going, as opposed to last year where it just was always a slugfest, just a struggle. But you know what? Just give me one win, baby, and it all goes back to normal. Am I right, Aslan? Just give me one win over those Warhawks. Let those War Daddies beat the Warhawks.
Hang 50, and
hang 100.
Yes. And then Charlottesville will be the penultimate game, and it's just it's smooth sailing from there. It's New Year's Six Bowl. Here we come. Watch out, Dabo.
I don't think you used penultimate correctly there, but either way, I love that you tried it.
All right, I went for it. All right, we're done here. We're gonna go to practice. We'll reconvene with you all tomorrow. Renegade Express. Go on the Tribal Council. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not a member to leave your questions. It's, of course, sponsored by First Commerce Financial. We'll get to it tomorrow. Thanks for being here with all of us. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Have a great day, everybody.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.